All right, I'm back. So we stop at the eval.sh and the function, the script didn't work. But when things don't work like this, default.nix. Let's just see if it actually works. Like if it actually works. Default.nix. Well, it does work. It does give us a lambda. It does give us a thunk, right? And yes, we cannot strict. Like, how do we check what's inside? How come I cannot see what's inside of there? How come when I evaluate, I get a thunk? Maybe this. I only get a lambda thunk, and even when I pass the strict option, I cannot see what's inside. Yeah, I wonder what chat to evaluate the modules and see the final configuration instead of getting a lambda thunk. You need to ensure. You need to. My cats are fighting a bit. You need to ensure that the configuration is fully evaluated. Nix expressions can be lazy. Define options Nix to accept inputs and provide options. Define config Nix to provide actual configuration values. And use packages libeval modules to evaluate and combine the modules. Yeah, we did this. Step-by-step example. Oh, he's giving us another example. Options .nix, config.nix, and default.nix. This is nice also. This is kind of a mathy thing. num1 libmk option type libtypes int default 1 description first number. This is like you do with the options. I like this from ChatGPT. And num2 is libmk option type libtypes int. This is an int, and the default is going to be 2, and with the description. So this is like the documentation that you can write for the yeah, we have 1 and 2, but basically these will be our like options for the program that we are building the module. The file defines the options with default values config.nix sum config.num1 plus config.num2, and this file defines the actual configuration using the options. Import Nix packages, let result packages lib eval modules. That's what we did. Options.nix, config.nix in result config. That's what we did. Evaluate the result. Nix instantiate eval strict default, and sum will get 3. Wait, let's do mkd GPT. Let's go into GPT, and I'll just copy and paste options. With our 2 numbers, the config and the default Nix. The setup should work. So let's do the same thing. So Nix instantiate. We get a lambda also. Interesting. When you run Nix instantiate eval strict default Nix, you should see the fully evaluated configuration. Sum is 3. Yeah, but we don't see it. And this does this is it's the same if you pass strict here or there. Yeah. Well, let's see if GPT has some kind of, I don't think it has. I still get this, yeah. It appears, just a second. All right, I'm back. To properly evaluate the configuration and avoid getting a lambda, you should, ChatGPT. Yeah, I did this. I can load it. All right. Nix REPL. I can load the default.nix. No, I cannot. Let's go back to our example. Can I load in the Nix REPL, load default.nix? Added one variables. It does work. How do you inspect it? I've loaded the default Nix. How do I inspect the values within? How do I check the values within? Force evaluation, built-in deepsec result config. How do I, okay, I loaded it in Nix REPL. How do I, how do I check the values? The default.nix is calling or returning, I guess. Result config. Result config. But what if I don't know the result config? What if I don't know? What if I don't know the names? What if I don't know? What if I don't know how to inspect when not knowing the names? Built-ins attribute names and built-ins attribute values, functions to explore the attributes and their values dynamically in Nix REPL. Yes, we have this built-ins attribute names result config. Yeah, we don't have it. This is not really. Okay, the default Nix has what? Has options and config, result config. Is it always result config? Maybe it's always result config. Nix REPL load default .nix and built-ins attribute name result.config undefined variable result. Really? Result config. Yeah, I'm getting really stuck here. Let's try again. So we're getting, it is working. But the eval, nix shell pjq run nix instantiate nix eval json jq. Wait, we have nix. I think I have JSON and JQ. JSON. No, JQ. I have JQ. The JSON is an option. Let's try this. Nix instantiate eval strict default.nix and pass that to JQ. Invalid numeric literal at line 2, column 0. Invalid numeric. I don't know what this means. I mean, it means this. And my default .next is maybe it will find something like this. Not sure. Not being valid JSON. Oh, it's using the old example. Yeah, this is not really helpful. Here's a helper script to parse and evaluate. As long as every definition has corresponding declaration, evaluation will be successful. If there is an option definition that has not been declared or the defined value has the wrong type, the module system will throw an error. Maybe we can check what he did. I don't know. This is getting really NixOS module system deep dive, Infinisil. How to make page not find. Oh, another anchor in the wild. This doesn't work. And it's the first link, module system deep dive. There's so many of these. Wait, copy. I have to write this down somehow. I don't know. I don't have time now to wait. I'll just do it like this. Page not find. Wow, and that's the first summer of Nix. Wow. Page not find again. What is this? Does it make sense to deep dive into NixOS without proper knowledge of Nix? I saw a 3-hour video on YouTube on setting up NixOS from scratch. And honestly, it doesn't seem that bad. I know this video, yeah. I think deep diving may be a good opportunity to learn more. Well, it really depends what you want to do. What is said really? I'm using NixOS on my NAS because first class ZFS support and reliable auto update, and it was very easy. But setting up a server is really simple with Nix. I haven't used Flakes. I haven't tried Home Manager, and my services are well supported with NixOS. That's true. I'd suggest setting up in a VM. So if you're like me, you'll spend a while confused by things like where do all these magic variables like packages and config come from. The chapter on the NixOS module system from this NixOS in production book is the best explanation I've found so far. You can read it free on the author's GitHub. Oh, that's from Gonzalez. I bought this book. I bought this book like half a year ago. This one. I bought it from LeanPub and now, I don't know, when I log in, it's not there anymore. It's weird. He's great, but you can read it for free. Modules. Oh, this is awesome. By the way, that's a great book. Oh, we need to see what Gabriella wrote. He's amazing. I love, sorry, her. Yeah, she's amazing. NixOS option definitions. By this point in the book, you may have copied and pasted some NixOS code, but perhaps you don't fully understand what is going on. Yeah, especially if you're not an experienced NixOS user, this chapter will slow down and help you solidify your understanding of the NixOS module system so that you can improve your ability to read, author, and debug modules. Author. Yes, we want to write NixOS modules. Throughout this book, I'll consistently use the following terminology to avoid ambiguity. I didn't know this book is for free. That's awesome. Wow, that's so nice. That's so nice of her. Oh, motivation, Terraform, 2 months ago. Yeah, it's a while until I remember the book. Look, it started 2 years ago, but she's great. She has like a very nice way to present things. Option declarations will refer to the options attribute of the NixOS module. So I'll use the following and she has really good feeling for a terminology, especially because she's a very well-known functional programmer. So option declarations will refer to the options attribute of the NixOS module, and option definitions will refer to the config attribute of a NixOS module. I guess this is what Robert meant when we are like stuck with the options and config from the C programming. The more correct will be like option declarations and option definitions. But what is the difference? This is what, funny, I have this, right, this is what Infinicil said actually about declaring options means to declare a new option. Defining options means to define a value of an option. Yeah, he even said like I'm saying the same thing. Defining options means to define a value of an option, and declaring to declare a new option. Okay, I guess it has to do with, this has to do with values. So the defining has to do with values, and declaring has to do with declaring another option. Along the same lines, declare an option will mean to set an attribute underneath, nested underneath options. So declaring an option means to create another option, like a subset of the set of options. And define an option will mean to set an attribute nested underneath config. Oh, okay. But you see, there are both attributes. But I guess the config has to do with values. Like, these things are kind of cool to paste into ChatGPT because then it has some, let's make a new one. I don't know if it works better if I go, can you clarify? In this chapter and the next chapter, we'll focus mostly on option definitions, and later on we'll cover option declarations in more detail. So first we're going to do, yeah, I'm kind of sidetracked now from the NixDev tutorial, but it's just, this seems like a very deep subject. Even though it seems like it isn't, like module and a submodule. Anatomy of a Nix module. In the most general case, a NixOS module has the following shape. And here is written shape in this is funny with ChatGPT. Sometimes it's really, and I have to reload the page. No, it's not even there. It didn't even, it's like, oh my. Let's see what ChatGPT says about this. Because it's not so clear. Option declaration, what it refers to, the options attribute of a NixOS module, meaning in practice, when you declare an option, you're specifying a new option that the module can configure. Oh, a new option that the module itself can configure. This involves setting attributes under the options section of the module. So let's show again options. So options, yeah, we don't have any options here. But what do we have in the config? In the config, we have a value. Okay. Example, options, my option, type boolean, description, and example option, default true. That's like in the configuration.nix, where you have like, you know, GNOME, set GNOME, I don't know, display manager true, or enable such and such a program true. That's an option. Here, my option is declared as an option with specific properties like type, description, and default. Option definitions, what it refers to, the config attribute of a NixOS module, meaning in practice, when you define an option, you're providing a value for an option that was declared, typically in the config section of the module. Okay, this is a nice line. When you define an option, you're providing a value for an option that was declared, typically in the config section of the module. So we declared it, but here when you're defining it, you provided a value. Okay. My config, my option, false. Declaring an option and a default value. You're assigning a specific value to an option that has been declared. This is done with the config. So was this like overriding? Declarations set up possible configurations and their defaults, while definitions apply specific values within a configuration context. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I guess it needs time to like sink in. In the most general case, a NixOS module has the following shape: config lib packages, module arguments, which our system can use to refer to its own configuration, other modules to imports, as we have like home manager, options that this module declares, options that this module defines, config. But we don't have it, like, do I have it? Like imports. Home manager, right? And we have like programs, neo vim, and plugins and extra config. Oh, this is old. I think this is old. Yes, we should have settings. This shouldn't be used. But the extra config, the config itself for the Vim, for the NeoVim is pasted as extra config. While Program Helix has the settings. This is the thing I covered in the first video. This is not good. This is not very, modular. So my NeoVim has this old extra config, and Infinicil did this in 2019. It's funny because I think he used this in one of the VMs when he was doing the Nix hour. He did he needed very quickly something to, he was writing something and he was in a VM, so he didn't have he uses NeoVim. So he didn't have the, tabs or something. Yeah, tab stop. He didn't have the tab stop. Then shift with tab stop, expand tab setup. So he did this quickly, which was a hack. And it's funny, really. It's ironical because he himself was the one who contributed the settings, right? And to where is it? Yeah, here, right? Old way, look at this, old way, extra config, right? And the new way, settings. So this is what he contributed. He wrote this. Look, Sylvan. Oh, that's nice. So there are some things to study. I mean, yes, the thing what I see, no, it's just some of the, I don't know, maybe that's okay. Of course, that's just my experience, but it's just some of these things that I see about NixOS. It's just hard. I mean, I would, hard in the sense it's not so hard, but it needs kind of a slower approach. Maybe what I'm doing now, it's really boring, but that's the only way how I can learn this. And maybe I'd like to see someone covering it a bit slower than the module is this, the module is that, and it's basically this, and it's basically that, or some kind of operational video where it's shown what you just have to do to get the job done, which is great. All of these things are great. There should be a lot of videos explaining in all kinds of ways. Okay, sorry, I really don't want to evangelize, but it's great that I found this book. You see this, I jumped into NixOS without any knowledge of Nix. Within a few hours, I had a working OS set up with multiple containers. You will be fine. You don't know that. Super Bowl. Take 30 minutes through the Nix tour, which should give you enough of the foundation. Maybe all of these are super programmers, or maybe I'm just really slow. I don't know. The best way to learn is by doing, after all. Yeah. Get in there. Get your hands dirty. A virtual machine to break things. Yeah. Okay. No, all of these things are great. Config. Okay. In other words, in the fully general case of NixOS, module is a function whose output is an attribute set with 3 attributes named imports, options, and config. Again, in the fully general case in NixOS, module is a function whose output is an attribute set with 3 attributes named imports, options, and config. Whose output, yes, whose result of the function is an attribute set, and it takes an attribute set as well. but it has to have 3 attributes named imports, options, and config. Blurb. This is something. Nix supports data structures known as attribute sets, which are analogous to maps or records in other programming languages. To be precise, Nix uses the following terminology. An attribute set is a data structure associating keys with values. That's the terminology from Nix. For example, this is a nested attribute set. Bio, name, Alice, age 24. This is nested. Job, software engineer. So these are like, this is an attribute set. It's like, yeah, it's a set. These are sets. But I think can you have the duplicate keys? Maybe you cannot because it's a set. Not sure. An attribute is Nix's name for a key or a field of an attribute set. Oh, an attribute. That's the name of a key or a field of an attribute set. So which is name, age, job, bio. That's an attribute of an attribute set. All right. An attribute path is a chain or one or more attributes separated by dots. Oh, that's a path, an attribute path. These things are, that's cool. Wow, thank you, Gabriella. Like, bio name is an attribute path. So same as in my programs, like this is an attribute path, programs.helix. Helix, but this is an attribute set that has keys, that has attributes such as enable with the value true, that has an attribute extra packages with a value with packages, and then it takes on more packages. Then default editor, true, settings. So maybe I should programs neovim. I should fix this. Maybe I should check how do we add the extra instead of the extra config. How do we add the settings? Right. Like this. This is an attribute path. This is an attribute set, and then this is an attribute set with the value 2311. For example, bio, job name, and age are all attributes in the above example. An attribute path is a chain. I'm explaining all this because I'll use the terms attribute set, attribute, and attribute path consistently throughout the text to match Nix's official terminology, even though no other language uses those terms. That's true. Yeah. I don't know, is that good or bad? Syntactic sugar. All elements of a NixOS module are optional, and NixOS supports syntactic sugar to simplify several common cases. For example, you can omit the module arguments if you don't use them. Imports, options, config. Yes, you can. That's like, we don't have to provide anything. You can omit the module arguments if you don't use them. But do I have to declare them? I don't. You can also omit any of the imports, options, and config attributes too in this module, which only imports other modules. Imports physical Nix, logical Nix, and that's it. Or this config only module. Config, services, Apache, Kafka, enable true, Zookeeper, enable true, okay. Additionally, the NixOS module system provides special support for modules which only defines options by letting you elide the config attribute and promote the options defined within the top level. As an example, we can simplify the previous NixOS module to this: Apache Kafka, enable true, Zookeeper, enable true. Config, services. We don't have to write the config. Really? We can just write this. Yeah, you might wonder if there should be some sort of coding style which specifies whether people should include or omit these elements of a NixOS module. That's funny. It's like the Nix dev, the default.nix. It's like in the Nix dev. Oh, this modular. That's interesting because all of the, like even the ChatGPT and Gabriella and like everyone, like, okay, the options and the config are all declared in the same file. And here it's separated into default.nix, config.nix, and options.nix, which I guess it's better because then you don't have to. It's still written config. Look, I thought like if you have config.nix, you can do name and then you just import the config.nix. Look, why do you have to? Yeah. My coding style for NixOS. My NixOS style, my coding style for NixOS modules is, just a second. So my coding style for NixOS modules is you should permit omitting the module argument. Just a second. Yeah, my cat found like a cap of a pen and now it's jumping. The pen was like tick, 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 tick. Now she found a little toy. I don't know. Okay. You should permit omitting the module argument. You should permit omitting the imports, options, and config attributes. You should avoid alighting the config attributes. What's alighting? In other words, if you do define any options, always nest them underneath the config attributes. NixOS modules are not language features. The Nix programming language does not provide any built-in support for NixOS modules. This sometimes confuses people new to either the Nix programming language or the NixOS module system. Yeah, the NixOS module system is domain-specific language implemented within the Nix programming language. Oh, that's what Fritzwerk thought when he says, so it's a language within a language. You see, a lot of these things are like, yeah, I don't know, where's that quote? Yeah. The NixOS module system is mostly implemented within the lib modules Nix file included in Nix packages. Yeah, I saw Sylvan checking this file. Modules.nix inherit. Look at this. LM filter. I guess these are functions. Inherit is option. Inherit. What's this? Concat string sort AB. Concat map. Eval. Please think twice before adding to this argument list. The more that is specified here instead of in the modules themselves, the harder it is to transparently move a set of modules to be a submodule of another config, as the proper arguments need to be replicated at each call to eval modules. and the less declarative the module set is. Oh, this is interesting. Yeah, so it's like, please think twice before adding to this, because it has to call everything to each call. Prefix, special args, class null args, check true, let with warnings, legacy modules, optional. This is a long file. I think it would be good to read this. There is a lot of documentation here. Module check, freeform type. This is what he mentioned, freeform type. If set, merge all definitions that don't have an associated option together using this type. Yeah, this is not clear now, but it's just interesting to this file. It's like you can check this file. Extend modules, collect modules, class let. Oh wow, this is like just as Fritz said, it's Handwerk, Frickler Handwerk. This is like a collect module. This is like a language within a language. But there are a lot of these if-else statements. Yeah, let's go back. If you ever receive a stack trace related to NixOS module system, you will often see functions from modules.nix show up in the stack trace because they are ordinary functions and not language features. In fact, a NixOS module in isolation is essentially inert from the Nix language's point of view. For example, if you save the following NixOS module to a file named example.nix and you evaluate that, the result will be the same, just without the syntactic sugar. It gets evaluated, but I don't have this service. Oh, that's interesting. The Nix programming language provides syntactic sugar for compressing nested attributes by chaining them using a dot. The Nix expression, config services OpenSSH, is the same thing as this Nix expression. Yeah, this dot. And they are both also the same thing as this Nix expression. Yes, exactly. Note that this syntactic sugar is a feature of the Nix programming language, not the NixOS module system. In other words, this feature works even for Nix expressions that are not destined for use as NixOS modules. Along the same lines, the following NixOS module, config services Apache Kafka enable is what? Config services Zookeeper enable. How can you compare these? The Apache and config is just a function. If we save that to example.nix and then evaluate that, the interpreter will simply say that the file evaluates to a lambda. Yeah, or an anonymous function. Although we can get a more useful result within the Nix REPL by calling our function on a sample argument. Nix REPL example is import example.nix. Oh, can we do this with our... Okay, 1 second. Nix REPL load default.nix added 1 variables. Example, wait a second. Let's do example is what? No, import default.nix. Example. All right, default.nix. Default.nix. Input p output. We don't input, output, p output. Wait a second, we don't have this input, p output. Input is what? Config services zookeeper enable true. He takes the input. He takes this as an input. Oh, and he gives it a value true. Output example input. Example input. And he evaluates it. P output. Apache Kafka enable true. Output config. Yeah, I still don't get it here. The default result config. Why can't I just REPL undefined variable result? Yeah. This illustrates that our NixOS module really is just a function whose input is an attribute set and whose output is also an attribute set. Yeah, there's nothing special about this function other than it happens to be the same shape as what the NixOS module system accepts. So if NixOS modules are just pure functions and pure attribute sets, what turns those functions or attribute sets into a useful operating system? That's a good question. So what puts the NixOS in the NixOS module system? The answer is that this actually happens in 2 steps. All NixOS modules your system depends on are combined into a single composite attribute set. In other words, all of the imports, options, declarations, and config settings are fully restored, resulting in one giant attribute set. This code for combining these modules lives in libmodules.nix. The final composite attribute set contains a special attribute that builds the system. Specifically, there will be a config system build top level attribute path which contains a derivation you can use to build a runnable NixOS system. The top-level code for assembling an operating system lives in NixOS module system activation top-level Nix. Wow. The top-level code. This is awesome. NixOS module system activation top-level system builder. mkdir out. That's nice. If config boot init, then this has to do with systemd. Prepare root, substitute in place, prepare root. Oh my. This is what putting it all together. This builds a store path containing symlinks to the various parts of the build configuration, the kernel, systemd units, init scripts, as well as script switch to configuration that activates the configuration and makes it bootable. See activatable system. This is really awesome. I mean, I guess this is really the NixOS discovery. But this is deep. This is a big let statement. Specialization options. Look at the options. System boot loader ID, internal true, default description, libmdoc. Wow. Fascinating. This will probably make more sense if we use the NixOS module system ourselves to create a fake placeholder value that will stand in for a real operating system. What does that mean? First, we'll create our own top-level.nix module that will include a fake config system build top-level attribute path that is a string instead of a derivation for building an operating system. Oh, wow. This is so cool. He built the Nix just with the, look at this. Top-level.nix, config lib imports other Nix. Options, system build top level, yeah. Description, a fake NixOS modeled as a string. This is so nice. Config is what? System build top level fake NixOS version config system NixOS release. So that imports a separate other Nix module, which we also need to create. What's the, let's see, options, system NixOS release, libmk option, description, the NixOS version. Type, libtype string. Config, system NixOS release 2311. We can then materialize, I like this, the final composite attribute set like this. Result, lib eval modules, modules top level Nix. Result config, system build top level, fake NixOS, result config, fake NixOS version 2311. In other words, libeval modules is the magic function that combines all of our NixOS modules into a composite attribute set. NixOS essentially does the same thing as in the above example, except on a much larger scale. Also, in a real NixOS system, the final config system build top level attributes path stores a buildable derivation instead of a string. This is really deep and cool. How long was this? 52 minutes. Yeah, I think I will stop now. I think I need to digest a bit. Make a small pause. Yeah, this is cool. This is very cool, and we're still here. Yeah, I still haven't fixed this. And I'm not sure what, yeah, I was trying to find the summer of Nix. Pearl diving with Nix. Pearl diving. Oh, when they did Pearl. Oh my. Right. Nix a deep dive. Yeah, this is not good, this first search. Tour of Nix, that's nice. Reading the Nix language, Jonas, this is nice also. Should check this again. I'm trying to find the deep dive, but it's basic NixOS talk by, oh, basic NixOS modules. What's this, Daniel Baker? We've all been there. 1 hour and 24 minutes? Ah, Jatsu, I know this name. Maybe this is not bad. This is like 1 month ago. Basic NixOS. I think I'll just watch this. And managing your user lane with Home Manager. Yeah, I'm gonna watch this, I think, and then I'll report, you know, what I watched. This will be nice. Yeah, I'd like to watch this. This might be actually basic. This might be actually very interesting. to combine that with the next step. Okay, I'll see this and then I'll report back.